Hello, I am Dr. Douglas Pietersma, and this is 10-Minute Home Education Seminars, Episode 6. I am a homeschool father with two children, one in middle and another in high school. I am also an independent education researcher, as well as director of Altametta Homeschool Auxiliary, which provides co-curricular courses to Christian homeschooling families in collaboration with parent-directed home education. 10-Minute Home Education Seminars are short summaries of various seminars that I have previously given or others that I intend to give in the future. The primary topic of these seminars is homeschooling, but they may also include broader topics such as discipleship, family, Christian living, and Christian education in general. Many of these seminar topics will have an accompanying article or resource list. I will place the links for these in the comments when I post a video. The value of these written articles lies mostly in the reference sections, which will allow you to dig into the resources that I used when developing these seminars. Today's seminar is part 3 of a 3-part series on overcoming obstacles in homeschooling. The first part focused on overcoming obstacles for those who are considering homeschooling but not yet committed. The second part looked at obstacles encountered by those who are just deciding to homeschool or those who have just begun. This final part looks at obstacles that may be faced along the homeschooling journey. Make no mistake, homeschooling is a journey. And like all great journeys, it can be one of great fulfillment despite obstacles that appear and are subsequently overcome. The title of this seminar is Obstacles Along the Way in the Homeschooling Journey. Veteran homeschoolers probably do not need me to tell them that there will be obstacles, but I believe it will be a good reminder for us as well as an example for those who will follow us. Along the way, we will regularly face obstacles. They are inevitable. Of course, hopefully we have come to rely on God in difficult situations so that every obstacle becomes a moment for us to stop and pray for God to reveal how He will mightily work in a given situation. After all, He has done it before, and we can have all the trust and confidence that He will continue to do so now. Like the previous seminars in this series, there is no possible way to cover an exhaustive list of obstacles, so I will try to cover some of the more common ones that have appeared in the literature of homeschooling. The first obstacle I'll talk about in this session is when our children approach or start high school. When homeschoolers get into high school, many parents become much more fastidious about record keeping and requirements. If you know or suspect your children will be college bound, this is not just a good idea, but an essential one. Doing so will set your child up well. Israel Wayne noted that few homeschoolers these days have difficulty getting into college, which is a bit of a change from years gone by, when homeschoolers faced scrutiny because institutions did not know if homeschoolers were actually prepared. Times have definitely changed, and in this case, for the better. Even unschoolers, those who generally follow no prescribed curriculum, have been successful at gaining entry into institutions of higher learning, as reported by scholars such as Carrie McDonald of the Cato Institute. Of course, applications and acceptance can vary substantially from college to college and state to state, so being knowledgeable about the requirements is key. The same goes for applying for scholarships. So how do we overcome apprehension about high school requirements and record keeping? Well, there are a number of paid and free resources for record keeping, so you should look around to see what might fit best with your situation. Remember, just because it's expensive doesn't necessarily mean it's better. For some curriculums, a system of record keeping is already created that you can utilize, and usually that's free if you have purchased that particular curriculum. Transcript templates are also available and can be used as is or with your own personal modifications. I would also recommend keeping digital copies of significant compositions or other writings, art portfolios, or recordings of fine arts performances that may be useful when submitting college or scholarship applications. For me, I found a transcript template that I liked, used it as a planning document for what I thought my daughter would do in high school, and started filling in as she began completing any coursework that would qualify for high school credit. In collaboration with her, and yes, I involve her in the planning, we have made significant adjustments to tailor her coursework to strengthen certain areas, to focus on areas of her interest or gifts, and to guide towards her initial vocational inclinations. We keep digital copies of all course grades, the scope and sequence of each course, examples of her compositions, and art portfolio, and other projects. The next obstacle that we'll discuss is burnout. This is something that I see discussed in a lot of social media groups. probably because these groups provide a certain amount of anonymity, especially if they are large national groups, as one might not know many of the group participants personally. It is similar to the obstacle of being overwhelmed for newcomers, but it can happen to any of us. Dare I say that it has likely happened to most of us along the way. Therefore, similar suggestions to overcoming this obstacle are warranted. So, how to overcome the obstacle of feeling burnt out? Perhaps homeschoolers can become comfortable in our routine and capabilities, but at some point we will likely hit a wall. When we do, we can go back to one of the earliest suggestions to new homeschoolers: network, network, network. Network in your city, network in your faith community, and network with your family. Maybe we did at one point and stopped for one reason or another. Or maybe the needs of your home learning environment have changed, so a refresh of your networking may be in order. I could repeat everything that was stated during the previous seminars in the sections which talked about being on your own or feeling overwhelmed, but suffice to say there are others who will help if we are willing to ask. The last obstacle I will discuss for the veteran homeschool family is about graduation and beyond. Now, this is an obstacle I have yet to face, so I will approach it delicately with the advice that I have heard from those who have gone before me and recommendations that I have read in the scholarly literature. By the time our children reach high school graduation and adulthood, we will likely have invested so much into their lives, countless hours, money, laughter, tears, perhaps even some sweat and blood, that it may be difficult for us to give up control and let them follow the Holy Spirit's leading in their life. The way to overcome this obstacle is to think, if you are already at this point, the point at which your children are about to graduate and go into adulthood, the best advice I can give, which I am repeating from what I have heard from others, is to turn your children over to God. If you are not yet at this point, start practicing now by turning things over to God ahead of time. A practical example might be that I want my children to reach a certain level in certain subjects. Take math for an example. I might think that it's value added to see my child all the way through high school calculus and trigonometry because someone told me that that is what I ought to do, or perhaps it's what I did when I was in high school. However, if I can see that God is working in my child's life in a way that would make these subjects superfluous, then I can give it to God. And I can keep tailoring our home education to the student's God-given gifts. I must trust that if and when the time comes that they discover they might have needed those subjects in high school, or what some will call gaps in learning, they will have learned enough about self-education to learn what they need to learn using their existing skills of self-education. After all, my responsibility is not to teach them everything they could possibly ever learn. That is an impossibility. My intent is to help them become self-directed learners who can learn anything that God needs them to learn in order to fill His will in their lives. To conclude this series of seminars, I know that these brief sessions cannot possibly have scratched the surface on the total number of obstacles that home educators could face, and certainly not all the potential opportunities for overcoming them, even the ones that I have discussed. Hopefully the point has been conveyed that whatever the obstacle, there is a way to overcome it, and for the Christian homeschooler, that way is a deep and abiding trust in the sovereignty of God. As Philippians 1:6 promises us, "He which hath begun a good work in you will perform it unto the day of Jesus Christ." The next topic I intend to cover is probably the second most frequent argument presented against homeschooling after the socialization argument, which we addressed in episode 3 of this series. That is, the qualification of the parents to teach their children. This was discussed briefly in this series on overcoming obstacles, but I will attempt to address the issue more fully in the next seminar. If you would like to contact me about a topic for these seminars, or if you are interested in scheduling me to speak at a conference, convention, or your church, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be included as part of the post or placed in the comments when I share the link for this video. If you are interested in courses offered through Altamento Homeschool Auxiliary, please see the links which will be provided along with my contact information. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I pray that God would bless your homeschooling effort to the end that your children might grow to be dedicated followers of Christ and effective ambassadors for His kingdom.